Oh, look at the ceiling. There we are. Whoop. I said, whoop. Get level. Hey. All right, so I do need some help. We'll give a moment for somebody to say hi and show up. There's one. We'll give a second here. Well, we got just people first showing up. I guess I should have warned people I was going live, but this was kind of an impromptu, spur of the moment kind of thing. How's it going, James? One, we just pulled clutch. What's up, David? We just pulled clutch number 22 off of a snake just now. Like, just finished pulling, resetting the snake, everything else. Hello, everybody. We get a lot of hellos. That's good. I appreciate that. Love the Ivan Drago reference. Rocky series is one of my favorite movies. I Must Break You is a great line, Ivan Drago, but the best line, in my opinion, was, if he dies, he dies. Just great, great movie if you grew up in the 80s. Ah, man, I'm feeling great. It was like a one-day thing. I felt like shit. Now I'm back rocking and rolling. A lot of things going on, guys, not just ball python related in my life. So I'm really excited. A little bit, if I said I wasn't a little bit apprehensive, I would be lying. There's some things that I am like scared of in the future, but it's like a excited, terrified all at the same time, because it's just going to be new ground I'm going to be breaking in my life. But that is not what I'm here about today. We can talk about that some other time if you want. What I'm here about today is just what the video says, right? I need, I'm on route to produce a caramel citrus tiger albino. Awesome. That'd be awesome. Are Boas and Pythons cousins? No. So Boas and Pythons, I mean, they're both snakes, and that's kind of, they're both constrictors. That's kind of where it stops in a lot of ways. They are different skeletal systems, for one. I do believe pythons have heat pits. Boas do not. Boas have live birth. When I say different skeleton, we're talking some minor differences in like the hip bones, I think, but don't quote me on that one. Pythons lay eggs. Boas are live birth. So there are quite a few differences in the two snakes. They cannot be crossbred. You cannot take any python and breed it to the boa world and vice versa. It's not going to work. So they're so distantly, that they don't connect. They don't breed together. So they are different snakes. Different snakes. So anyway, there you go. There will be some differences in the rule, but they are not cousins. Boas, pythons, two different families. You got just two different families altogether. So, if you want to get to cousins, you can be like, well, carpet pythons and cousins. I mean, Boas and pythons are about as closely related as, say, pythons and corn snakes. I mean, they both are constrictors. That's about where it's going to stop for the most part. They both have eyes. But that's okay. There's bunches of stuff in each different genre that we can all play with and crossbreed if we so choose. So what I wanted to talk about today is in pulling clutch 22, it made me think something, right? Thank you, Royalty. I'm feeling fine. Like, I've had a cough a few times, but that's normal, especially playing with this damn Paralight that I use. I mean, it's dusty when you set up egg hatch tubs. But the question of the day, where I want some feedback, because I got some ideas where I want to take a video, but I also want to know where you guys think the lines are, because this is just kind of going in my brain today. So as we're pulling clutch 22, I expect to pull more clutches this year. I expect to have my production from last year and the year before, and just keep stepping forward. At what point, what does it mean to be? I don't do any. Me personally, I don't do any boas right now or any reticulated pythons. Now, through our shop, we do carry all kinds of boas and pythons, but they're not produced here at all. So that's something I do want to be upfront about. But what does it mean to be a ball python breeder or snake breeder or reptile breeder or whatever? Are we going to say, hey, I produced a clutch, ergo I am now a ball python breeder, or is it I've produced clutches and I sell clutches to try to offset the cost of my hobby, I am a ball python breeder? Or is it I produce 20 clutches, I make a small profit, not enough to live off of, but I'm a ball python breeder? Or hey, I produce as a small business enough to make a living off of, now I'm a ball python breeder? Or is it, hey, I'm producing 150 to 200 clutches a year, I have a couple employees, I'm my business feeding my family and theirs. I am a ball python breeder. So where is that line? And what kind of got me thinking is watching my own career, if you will, grow up, right? I do have Gila monsters, Dennis. I do. They're awesome. And and see, that's the thing, James. I kind of agree, but there different levels in this thing, you know? And can you be a hobbyist and a breeder? I think you can, you know, but there are, I think, at least from my day on Facebook when I first started, it seemed to me like there was this echelon of folks who would look down like, oh, well, you're just producing this, you know, get away, Nat, you're nothing to me. You're not a breeder. I am a breeder because I'm doing this. And where do we see that? And then with that, you know, the knowledge base that comes, I mean, you do gain more knowledge the more you do. Experience does equal knowledge. It doesn't always mean good knowledge. It just means knowledge, right? And so what point, you know, are we, and I'll be honest, I'm not big into the imperator market, so I really am not the guy to give price advice on that. I would say really just dive into morph market on that one, Ivan, then you'll get some answers. And do hit the thumbs up, Purpers. I would appreciate that. So what I want to look at in my video is talking about, you know, what is a breeder, you know, and at what point, you know, can we hold our head high and call ourselves a breeder, you know, and at what point, if that's a goal we want to obtain, at what point, you know, are we just a pet owner? At what point, I mean, somebody just mentioned hobbyist breeder versus professional breeder. Well, what point is that, you know? Well, and I think we have to some extent, Dave, but not across the board. I still think there is some of this division, you know, or if we are helping each other out on some levels, I do think that there are still people, and I'm not trying to name names, or I'm not trying to call anybody, some things I'm talking about, but I'm not. I'm talking very, very general. You know what I mean? Very, 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 very general. Like where it's like, well, I'm going to be helpful now because I'm supposed to be, but this is not, like, this is beneath me because these aren't real breeders. You know, I've heard those kind of things be said or typed or you know, and it's funny. I've seen people with 15 snakes, and when you have the purple shirt award with 15 snakes, right? Talk about how somebody just getting in, you know, well, they don't know what they're doing. They're not a real breeder. You know, you got to be in this for 10 years to be a real breeder like me. And you guys probably know how I feel about that, those that have followed me for quite a while. So I guess what I'm asking is, what is your input? Like when we talk about, hey, I'm a ball python breeder, and we're going to go down that road. Yeah, I agree they are, James. And here's the thing, if you haven't followed this very long, I kind of sometimes like to take a big stick and stir that pot of toxicity and call that shit out. Because I don't think it's good for the hobby. I don't think it's good for the business, and I got no use for it. And so, you know, and when I first started coming up, there were people who were very helpful and people who were very nice. There were people I learned some things from, who were willing to help. Some I still deal with, some I don't deal with as much. I mean, you're going to have good and bad and falling outs and everything else through any business or hobby you're in, you know, and I won't name the ones who are shitty because I'd rather focus on the positive, right? Players for all that are, oh yeah, I don't want to be deployed right now, you know. And I'll go ahead and I'll name a few people off the top of my head, right? It definitely needs work. More division, easier it is to have a government, easier to take away. Yeah, I agree. And that's great, David. But whenever I first got in, it wasn't always that way, especially online. You know, like there are people like John Dog. I'll call out John Dog. You know, I could call him, right? And he was very helpful. Didn't have to be. Was very helpful. Didn't need to be. He could have blown me off, but he didn't. I don't think I've ever had to call Brian Gundy, but Brian Gundy's another one that I know other people have told me, hey man, I talked to this Brian Gundy guy and he was super helpful. Man, he took an hour to spend with me and talk to me. So I know he's been very helpful. You know, here locally, I learned some stuff from Dave Karnowski when I first got rolling. Like, taking time to show me how to sex ball pythons, amongst other things, was helpful in that front. So like, Reed, Tall Grass Reptiles, and Eric, when he was there, man, those two dudes were helpful to me as well. Judd McClanahan, that's another one who is helpful. But John Stoltz is helpful. John's a little quieter. You got to talk to John a little bit. Once you get him talking, he's very helpful. So like all those people here were helpful to me, right? And I'm glad, Dave. That's my point. I wanted to return that favor. Most of them are local, with the exception of Brian Gundy, John Dog. Those guys aren't local to me, and I'm kind of lumping Wichita in as local. It's Kansas guys, right? So, but I would also go on Facebook and I'd see somebody ask whether it was a noob question or not. The whole tearing down, and somebody like me who had problems with my first clutch, And as I'm trying to get help, people say things like, "Well, you're a fucking idiot. You shouldn't be breeding anyway." Well, how am I supposed to learn? So, kiss my ass is how I felt about that day. But and I never forgot that. There's people that said stuff like that now aren't even in the hobby because they couldn't make it, right? So, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of real estate they can kiss right now. So, Justin K. I don't know. I'll butcher his last name. So, what I want to say is. Well, that's the same with all snakes, Ivan. Corn snakes, same way. A lot of the boas are the same way. People pay for the morph. Carpet pythons, you're paying for the morph, unless you're paying for some of the pure blood diamond stuff. But that's just how it kind of works. So I guess my point is, when we go back to this well, as I keep formulating this plan, is at what point, do we become a breeder? And like I've got to read what James wrote. He said, "There's obviously a distinct separation between the average hobbyist, someone like you, and folks that do this full time. You can't compare these folks. The only thing in common is the snakes." To an extent, I agree, James, and I think there is a difference to somebody like me and Brian Barczyk, or me and Justin, or me and Billy if they're in Canada. And the distinct difference there is, those guys. One, they've had a lot of experience, more than I have. And number two, those guys all have, and I'm sure I'm missing something, they'll have employees, right? So not only are they running breeding snakes and all of this, there's an entire business aspect to what they're doing, See, there you go. Why are you snubbed? Like, you shouldn't be snubbed. And those guys, there's a whole different business, a whole different level of business to what they're doing, right? And I only sell snakes, Terminator. Well, snakes and insurance, but snakes mostly. So with that, that's a different level. But the difference between somebody like me, as you look in this room, and somebody like, I'm going to pick on somebody right now because I know they won't mind. I'll pick on, say, JoJo. JoJo's in here. Wolf Guys, for those who don't know JoJo. What is the difference between me and JoJo? It ain't that much. Now she doesn't have this many animals, and she hasn't produced this many clutches, although she's produced clutches, she's sold clutches. She's doing that. But am I more of a breeder than she is? I don't think so. I don't think I am. I think that really we're not that far apart. Like, the only thing that you could say is we're apart is I'm a few years further in my career than she is, and my face gets out on camera a whole hell of a lot more. So, and JoJo, you don't know JoJo, man. I'm telling you, that woman can cuss me on the table under the right situation. Yeah, there it is. And there's a lot of people I could say that same thing about. I will learn from those people, right? And the same as I will learn from others who are going to learn from me. So I know there's things that JoJo will learn and I will teach her as we go through this. And the same that I'm going to learn from them. As a matter of fact, I think we did a video earlier. I talked about, if you look at the leopard tail, you'll see a cello. I learned it from one of my Patreon. Remember, this is JoJo. This is JoJo that taught me that. So, is there that big of a difference other than number of snakes, number of babies, some experience? I bumped my head a few more times. I maybe know a few more tricks because I've done some more things, right? But there's not that big of a difference, guys. That's what I'm saying. So for somebody like me to sit here when this isn't my full-time job, this is a hobby. Up to 89, you got about 100 more to go, girl. and sit there and say, well, I'm a real breeder because I pulled 22 clutches this year. Oh, but this person over here isn't. They only pulled 10. That's bullshit, I think. And I say that because Jeff's on here. That's a prime example. Jeff started about the same time I did, probably a little bit before. Took about a 4-year break. Life kind of punched that guy right in the face. And I can only tell this because I know Jeff's thick skin. He won't care. And then he got back into it, but that stunted his growth. Am I more of a breeder than Jeff is? No, I'm not. He helps me identify certain things. He works like fire. I'm going to come help him identify some stuff in Champagne because I work with Champagne more than we do. We learn from each other. We grow together. So, hey, Dorothy from Kansas. You're really from Kansas? I have to know because we're all about K-State here. Hopefully you're not about the other one, the thing. And the most expensive, it's probably different today than it was yesterday. I mean, it changes all the time. So that's my question. So what I want to know is when I try to rail on this topic, because I think we're due for an Olympus Reptiles rant video. It's been a while. What direction do you guys want to see me take it? What do you guys consider the first tier, I would say, because we can all agree, there's different levels of experience, there's different amounts of snakes. I would say there's a definitive line if you have employees versus if you don't, whether you're making your own living or not, because running in a business with employees is totally different than running in a business without them, right? I mean, it is, right? Also Patreon. When I get done here and we go to Patreon, I'm going to tell you the day the live's going to be, and it's going to be one you don't want to. Sorry, the special for this month is going to be. You don't want to miss it. We'll get that time hammered out, and we'll go for there. The perfect big snake for a pet. Honestly, if you want big, like an actual big snake, I would say the best one to start with, in my opinion, is probably a boa. But that's also because it was my first one, so worked out well for me. But that's just kind of me. So, where do you guys want to see that go? I mean, we're going to talk about the full-blown business. We're going to talk about the guy who's running this hobby like me, Jeff, JoJo, right? Anna, I know she's on here, a couple others, right? And then we're going to talk about, the breeder, and I do consider them a breeder that's doing 2 or 3 clutches a year, just kind of as a hobby, maybe something for their kids to help learn on, something to do as a family, things like that. That kind of thing. And then we're going to talk about the person who has no intent to breed. I mean, I'll call them breeder curious because I think everybody has a little bit of an intent to breed. And how should we? We're going to do some more of that too, 49 Lakers. Not today. Today is just more of me getting some ideas from y'all. So this is me picking your brain. But I need that feedback, y'all. Otherwise, I'm going to do it my way, and my way might be a disaster. But how we want to cut that. So tell me, where would you say is the minimum level to be a breeder? They've calmed down a little, but we feed them a lot less now, so they tend to be looking for food a lot. We're trying not to overfeed those bloods. They only get fed about once a month. Currently, we do need to do some display cages for them, but I need to find some. So 20 clutches. Yeah, now look at you, Caleb. Now you're breeding, right? That's funny that they taught you to hate morphs, because I would argue that I know the zoo you work in and I like them. Great guys, great zoo, beautiful place. But whether you're dealing with a reptile morph or a white tiger, it's a genetic morph, right? Oh, Corey, bad pool, buddy. Bad pool. I still love you, though. 2 tangos, so I guess at least 2. So you'd say 2 clutches, you're a breeder. What about somebody who's attempting to breed, but they haven't really produced yet? Do we say that's a breeder, or do you have to at least break that threshold of, hey, I have produced living baby snakes, I am now a breeder? I know for me, that's when I felt like a breeder. The first year I killed the whole clutch, I felt like a failed breeder, not a breeder. And then once I finally produced living snakes, I felt like this weight off my shoulders. I can do this. I went from somebody trying to breed ball pythons and trying to be a breeder to somebody who actually is a breeder, maybe on a very small level. So for me, that was a line where I felt like personally, hey, I'm actually a ball python breeder now. I actually have baby snakes crawling on an incubator. I fucking did it, right? Intent plus execution, exactly, Shar, exactly. Get into just to make some extra cash, don't tend to stick with it. I agree, Lindsay, they don't. What's going up? Sussy Reptilian, I think I've got that. You're a breeder curious, Dave. You need to quit being curious and just start doing it, buddy. Well, I know it's hard when you're trucking because you're on the road so much, right? Making a profit. So is that going to be the level of making a profit where we have to be making a profit to be a breeder? Because to me, I think we could break it down. How about this? If you're making a profit, that put you in the professional breeder market? I mean, if I like to play basketball, well, I used to like to play basketball. I got fat and old. Now I like to shoot a basketball. Now I'm not run. But I like to play basketball. Now I played in school, you know what I mean, and then I played as a up to my 20s, early 30s, just for a hobby. Everything else, I was a ball player, right? But I wasn't a professional ball player. Basketball was a hobby of mine. I was an amateur. So we could almost go, if you are breeding at a profit, then you're maybe a professional breeder. If you're breeding at not a profit, you are a breeder or an amateur breeder. You know, you're not making money at this yet. And then would that be a fair assessment? Would that be a fair breakdown, you think? It's a small scale when you sell a baby. We could go that too. If you're selling animals, well, I think every breeder, for the most part, is selling animals. You know, because you can't, it's not Pokemon, man. You can't keep them all. I mean, if you only had 3 clutches and you had 30 snakes and your intent was to breed snakes, you're going to sell some of those babies to at least widen your bloodlines, right? So, you know, you may be selling them, but you're not really making money. You're taking that money and just throwing it back in. It's pure hobby at that point. So there's no intent to make cash. So what was Chad saying there the first time? So when you first sell a baby. So, and I agree, James, but what I want to say is rather than start saying, well, this person isn't a real breeder, this person ain't a real breeder, let's get past that. Let's figure out, like, let's accept that there's different levels to what we're all doing. You know what I mean? Just like anything, I mean, and I'll pick on basketball because we brought that up earlier. You know, there's people who play basketball. There's in college basketball. Well, when we get all levels of that, there's some G League. You know, there's some overseas basketball, and there's the NBA, right? And I would say those dudes playing it in like high school and out just for fun. Those are like just hobbyists, right? I mean, I'm a basketball player, but at a hobby level. If I'm playing it in the college level, I'm like that guy who's selling some snakes. I'm getting an education, I guess, and I'm doing it in an attempt to play elsewhere most of the time, right? To be that pro, to grow up into that my career, and then you hit those other ones. You got like your G League, your overseas people, like players. That'd be like me. I'm making money at this, but I ain't the NBA, right? Then you get your NBA level, that's your bar checks of the world, your JKRs, them dudes. So maybe that would be, so yes. It could be an accidental breeding too, right? And that's my point. Some people just play for fun. They're still a player, right? But they may not be at that professional level. Now, in this aspect as a player, you may be selling 10 or 15 snakes to fund your next project, but you're really not ever wanting to get to that point of, hey, this is my career. You're not going that route. If you are going that route, it's kind of a different level. Small versus medium versus large sounds better to me than pro or not, and that could be, but it's. I think yeah. But what is small, medium, and large? Like, I don't even know what I am at that. You know what I mean? Spend money. So what's small? What's medium? What's large? The first, yeah, and also like Chad, if you're buying your facility, right? Now I don't know if you're making profit at this yet or not. So let's go with that. But you're buying a facility, you're investing that much money. You obviously have an intent to do this out of profit because you're going to be spending, you're investing more than what somebody's going to invest at the hobby level. It's the same boat I'm in, right? I've invested a lot to do this. I'm not going to just do it at a hobby level. I'm going to try to do it at a level that, as a professional level to make a profit. And I know that professional level has a connotation of being better than a non-professional level, but it's really not. Professional, we're talking about is just getting paid. I mean, for those of you who are college basketball fans, Cade Cunningham was one of the best players in the country last year. He is better than a lot of players in the NBA, but he wasn't a professional yet, right? So it doesn't mean that you're better. It just means you're doing it for profit. That's what we're talking about. We could call it a for-profit breeder. Maybe that would be better than saying professional. A for-profit breeder. That might be the better way to go. So, Cruz will have to save wife aggro, I guess. Wife aggro. Uh-oh. You haven't had the first clutch or pairing yet. Well, the chat is coming. So yes, before you, I mean, I think that would probably be a better term, maybe, because I know pro carries a connotation of being better, which is not my intent. So maybe we go with the for profit. That's why we're having this conversation, by the way. Medium would be the advanced hobbyist intent to grow. But again, where were we at then? What's going on, James? I mean, James Frederick. I got two Jameses. James Austin. What are we? Like, would I be on your level there as a large breeder, or would I be as a, a hobbyist with intent to grow? I still have an intent to grow, but I mean, I don't know where all those things fit. So it is definitely an interesting to say. I'd say medium, and that's where I would probably say. But is that with the intent to grow? Because I may not ever have an intent to grow to what somebody would consider a large breeder. I probably don't. And there's a lot of people my size out there, a lot more than we know, right? So like we're just probably a little better known than many of them because of the social media aspect. But so yeah, but can you be medium level and make a living? So you can send me a small pro. No disrespect at all. And that's what I'm trying to. That's why it's so hard. Is everybody wants to get all this labeled? What is a real breeder and what is not a real breeder? Well, and I think we're all real breeders. If you're putting two snakes together and you're hatching live babies, congratulations, you're a breeder. Now, if you did it on accident, that's like somebody said earlier. I rescued something. Holy shit, here we are. I wouldn't call that necessarily a breeder because you're not trying. Like, I don't consider myself a rattlesnake breeder, but I have had a clutch of rattlesnakes or a brood of rattlesnakes before. It was accident. It was a wild caught gravid female. So, yeah. And this is true, Lindsay. When you're your own best customer, your collection grows really fast, right? That would be a storm surge pythons of everybody. I do believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's the thing, and I think what I like right now so far in hearing it, because I love that in Aussie, there's no only medium sized by numbers. JKR has referred to himself many times. I'm full of shit on this one, as probably the largest small breeder out there, and I wouldn't say JKR is a small breeder by the numbers he produces. But again, that's where he doesn't see himself as large. So where do we all really fit? And I know there are people who are large breeders that you would probably know are large breeders. But I know they are. And I'm not going to put it out there because I don't know if they want it out there. So I won't do that to anybody. But with that being said, let's look at this. I think I like the term. Will Banks is a large breeder, right? Will Banks would be one that I would say is, a business breeder. Like, not just a for-profit breeder. He's a business breeder. And what I mean by... So this is what I think I'm going to go with. Let me know if y'all like this. We're going to go with, breeder or hobby breeder, or whatever you want it to go by, right? So label should apply. Each of us can learn from him. And I agree to an extent, Corey, but I also think that I want to get something established so we quit getting this person's not legit. This person doesn't count, because they absolutely do count. I want those people to feel counted and have a place for what they want to do. So if you're just in it for the hobby, you're just wanting to breed some snakes, sell some snakes, get some new snakes, not ever wanting to make a profit or anything past, be able to take the old lady out for dinner one night kind of thing, then yeah, it's a hobbyist breeder. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like a hobbyist woodworker. One of my signs that I have in this house was bought from a hobbyist woodworker. He just sells some shit to get new tools he wants and makes amazing shit. But it's not what he's doing hardcore. It's what he does because he wants to do it. Nothing wrong with that. And then you would have a for-profit breeder, which is a guy who's doing it like this level. We're a for-profit breeder. I ain't gonna lie. We are attempting to build wealth and profit by breeding snakes, and we are doing that. That's a for-profit breeder. You have people who are, if you're trying to make profit, then you're a for-profit breeder. Whether you are or not yet, that's your intent. That's what you're going towards. You're a for-profit breeder, right? And then you would have the business breeders, who are guys that I would say have a business. They have and this is an LLC. Olympus Reptiles is a legit LLC with a business license, right? You know what I mean? And but they have employees. They're beyond the level, and that's going to be filmed on Friday, Todd. Don't worry, we're going to be playing a lot of them stuff. Hopefully on Friday is cleaning day. We're going to have somebody kind of helping learn a little bit, so we're going to be working with them. Redneck Jeff's supposed to be up here so you see a few people. So then you have your, your business breeder where they're at a point where they're having to have employees and all of this. And I can tell you, you don't have to always change groups. I never plan on leaving the group I'm currently in. I don't want to be a business breeder. I don't want to be a breeder that has to have 2 or 3 employees. In my perfect world, I'd take somebody like Jeff right there, who just kind of, he only lives a little bit away, and hire him on occasion when I'm gone. Like, hey man, can you come check stuff while I'm gone a couple times? And that would be the extent of me having an employee. I don't want to be a business breeder, or a big business breeder, but a for-profit breeder. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Is that a fair way of looking at it? We have, people who are hobby breeders, people who are for-profit breeders. Then we have your big business breeders, or your business breeders. They're going to be producing a lot of animals, typically have their own employees. And that is definitely a different level, because there's things that you can learn from them that I can't teach you if you want to be that. I can't teach you how to have employees. You know what I mean? No, they don't disconnect from people. Man, Brian Barczyk's a great example. I know that's a love-hate relationship for some people. That dude is a business breeder, right? I mean, he has employees. We've all seen them 100 times. I mean, everything else. But if you get a chance to meet him, he's going to take the time to talk to you, help you. He loves talking snakes. He is not going to disconnect from the people in general. And that's the thing that I want to do with this. As we were looking out at it, right? You took a loan out against your car to buy a snake. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's an invested breeder. You were definitely going to be a for-profit breeder because you got to now. Same thing. I took a loan out to buy this house so I could breed snakes, and if they pay for it, I mean, I get it. If you notice, there's one constant word in all of those. If we're going to start wanting to say, well, this isn't real or this is real, they're all breeders, and that means they all have knowledge to share or experiences to learn for anybody who's getting into it. I honestly will tell you guys, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart, and I know there's some people who have been with me here a very long time, Anna, Jojo, David, you guys have been with me since damn near the beginning, right? When I first started doing YouTube, I think we had a better connection with people watching. And I think that connection came from the fact that when they turned on an Olympus Reptiles video and they saw this one little rack that was homemade piece of shit in a small room in my house, they would see more of themselves there. They would see this achievable level. Like, hey, this guy I'm seeing is like me. I'm trying to do this. This guy's trying to do this. And they would have that relationship to it. What's going on, DEA? And that rack is still producing. It's at Redneck Jeff's house. So now I think that people don't connect it as easy because they see this and they see that this moved to this level, right? Oh, a ton, DA, a ton. But I'll fill you in. That maybe the new guy coming in sees it and goes, that's cool. And I agree, there's no real or not real breeders. That's the point. I mean, you may have breeders doing different things at different points in their career or in different groups that they want to be in, but they're all still breeders, and we need to treat each other with that respect, right? We need to help each other. It's not about putting yourself above. That's why I like when somebody brought up the term, they didn't really like the pro term in there, right? Because we had to get, it's funny, Jeff, we had to get rid of the pro term, as we were doing this now, because I think even if that's not what the word really means, it does create a separation connotation. But I think people connect to us less now because it's harder for them to see themselves in my shoes. Just like I said, we look at that as like a small professional setup or whatnot. And that's harder to see. Like if I were to see me when I'm first starting out, I would be hard to think, oh man, to get there. It's really not that hard. But that's, but I want us all to connect as breeders. If you produce one clutch this year or 300 clutches this year, I don't care. I don't care. You're a breeder, right? And I think it's the way the wall was built. Which wall? Like the rock one or the purple one? Or I'm not sure what you're talking about. Someone says, I was an early watcher of your channel. I still watch from time to time. You lost me as a consistent viewer when you started separating content with Patreon. Nothing against Patreon. Well, we never really separated content with Patreon. We just did extra content on Patreon. We give just as much content to YouTube as it, well, actually more than the day we started. So we never took any content away from YouTube. We just expanded extra content into Patreon. And we'll continue to do so because without that, hey, I couldn't have grown this the way I have. So I'm not going to apologize for that. And, you know, I would suggest to you to check that out. You may find that that community, that positive community, is worth it. And sorry about the slugs, man. I've been there. It sucks. So, oh, the door trim separation. Yeah, I had to do some fill in there. That's that rock. Other people say, yeah, if you got rid of the fake rock in there, I'm like, it's what? That's actually a 2 foot thick rock wall. Like it's literally a rock. It's what holds the house up. It goes up 2 stories. So, Justin and others with high respect. How's you guys? Good. Well, wait a minute. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bad hombre. I want to touch on that because you maybe talk about something I don't know about right there. It says, I feel if you're genuine about the hobby, then it speaks for itself. I hold you, Billy, Kevin, Justin, other guys with high respect because you guys feel genuine. Okay. I didn't know if you were saying that you talk to those dudes, they had respect for me. I was like, oh man, that makes me feel good because some of those are some of the people like, you know, I look up to. I love Kevin. And I know, I mean, it doesn't mean I agree with everything Kevin says or does, but that guy hasn't given a shit since he's been here. He does things his way, and my God, I respect the hell out of Kevin for that. So, and somebody said, I think about the slugs. Yeah, can you give any tips how to get patrons? Man, DA, if I knew, I'd tell you. What I would say is, if you're gonna do Patreon, you got to do content. You know, you have to give them something that's worthwhile. Like if somebody's going to spend $5 a month on a subscription to see my content, I want to give them more than they paid for. I want to be able to give them as much as I possibly can. I need to take a few minutes each day to try to give them something. We built some communities. We've done some things. I also think it helps that we got into it early. It is a tough road to hoe, I'll be honest, but that's where I would say. I just want to say how entertaining it is to watch your channel. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's what we want. All right, guys, we've been at this way longer than I intended today, but I think I got some terms to play with on what I want to do. And, yeah, sorry, Martin, crappy odds. But I could tell anybody that had their first clutches slug out or go bad. I personally, from my own mistake, killed my entire first clutch. Wiped it off the map. All but one egg, and that one egg died of its own accord. But the first 6, that was me. And as much as that hurt and stung, once I got past it and picked myself up, you can see it's grown into something pretty amazing. So that would be something we could do. Jonathan, I'd love to, but we're in the middle of Kansas, and I work 40 hours a week. So it would be hard to do that. I mean, I got to get people here. Like we got to do that with Dave one time, Kaufman, but he was driving through and it was awesome. You know, I would love to do that with DA Exotic. That guy was a warrior going live like all the time. That would be awesome, DA, because it's a lot. And I would love to do that as well. So, yes. Let me look. Here's a come one to get to. James says, you said Patreon's your rock and you wouldn't be where you are without it. You should make a video about that. We have done a video about that. And the thing is, we try not to do it too often because it comes out sounding like an advertisement. Hey, join my Patreon. Hey, join my Patreon. Hey, this is why you should join my Patreon. But you should join my Patreon. But yes, so there is that. Aaron, he's filming. I don't know. Oh, no, that wasn't Aaron. That was actually a text from a Patreon member making sure that something came in that did. So I'll have to get to that in a minute. So, I know I should have turned the vibration off. I plan on this being like 5 minutes because my ass has got to get to bed. It is, I got a long day tomorrow. But I got to go to Patreon first and let you guys know when the specials. So we got off of here. We're going to slide over to Patreon. Guys, thank you. I think when I do the video, what I'm going to go with is a hobby breeding, a for-profit breeding, and then a business breeding. I think that is the best way to do that. And I appreciate that. So I think that comes off a lot better than what I was thinking originally. So talking with you all helped me work through what was broken in my brain. Which, well, helped me work through one part of what was broken in my brain. There's no fixing the rest of this. Thank God you guys can't see what's inside there. And good night. And James, seriously, if you're not on Patreon already, because I always recognize your name, check it out. I'll tell you what, for all those who are thinking about it, let me tell you something to prove to you. It's not just about me grabbing money. Unless you want to be a part of this month's special, which is going to be a pretty damn cool special, right? I would say definitely go look. And if you join now, what it's going to do is charge you today, and then it's going to charge you again on the 1st. I can't fix that. That's how it works. So you know what? If you want, look at it. If you think I want to join that, join it on the 1st. That way it charges you then, and you get a full month for your first charge to see if you like it. And then if you don't like it, the most round is $5. You're not spending $10 to test it. That makes sense. So go check it out, and we'll see if we can get you on there. If you want to join now too, I'd love it. It helps me out. But I want you to get bang for your buck, like I said. So awesome. Thank you, James. And I'm gonna hop off of here now. Did you guys see that fly flying from the camera? Boop. And we will catch you all next time. Thank you.